Welcome into another edition of Drawing a Crowd, the business of sports tourism. I'm Stan the Fan Charles, and I am flying solo today, but I'm happy to have, as promised, a guest that we're excited to have back on. These years go by so fast, but our guest is Arion Herbert. He's the Chief Executive Chair Head of Brand Partnerships for Turf Wars kickball tournaments that are held across the country. Arion, welcome back. It's great to have you on again.
Stan, thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm a regular now after being on here last year, and then the introduction that you gave me, I feel so important.
Well, that title, being a chief executive, that sounds so highfalutin. Hey,
Thank you.
remind me, and I apologize that Terry couldn't be here today,
It's
but
okay.
tell me a little bit about this. I know we had you on last year, and I know the
hmm
sport. I get the sport is it's played like softball, only
hmm
pitcher doesn't throw the ball like softball underhanded. They kick the ball to the batter, and then it's
Yep.
basically played like softball. But tell me
hmm
a little bit about, did you come up with this concept of this sport, or did you just merely see or hear about this sport and say, hey, I think I can do something with this?
Well, I would love to take the credit for coming up with this sport, but the truth is, Stan, the game of kickball has been around for over 100 years. It's more commonly known amongst grade school kids. I remember playing it as a kid in
Right.
recess or in PE. And so the game is more it's more common for youth. To play the sport in school, in grade school, just kind of like at recess and things. So the
Is
idea
it
of it
play,
being
is it
played.
played is it played, Arian? Now I'm flashing back to that. Is it played with like a softball, or is it played with like a punch ball?
So it's played with
Yeah.
like a rubber 10-inch diameter ball.
Okay. That's what I thought.
So
Okay.
like yeah, like a rubber ball.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll see it, being played with some states they play with a soccer ball. We don't play with that, but it's more like a rubber ball that mirrors
Okay.
like what you would see a dodgeball look like. Yeah.
Yeah, a dodgeball. Okay. So I'm more
hmm
familiar with this than I thought I was. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how many years have you been putting on these tournaments? And I know
Mhm.
this year you've got an amazing array. You've got 9 different tournaments across the country.
Yes, sir. That's correct. We started hosting these tournaments in 2019, the Turf Wars brand. And so when you think about just kind of how our existence in this space, a little over 6 years. It's been a little bit over 6 years that we've been hosting national adult kickball tournaments. And when we first entered the scene, we were only hosting one a year. We would just kind of host one national tournament, and then that would be it. And
And where would that
slowly
and
but
where would
surely.
that take place?
That would take place here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I call
Okay.
home.
Okay. In
hmm
your home, Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And when
Yes,
did
sir.
you branch out in the history of this event? Where did you branch out to two and three? And how did it build up to now this year, 9 tournaments?
Yeah. So after we did one in 2019 and in 2020, we were attracting players from other markets, other regions that would come into Charlotte. And naturally, they were just asking us, hey, when are you going to bring this to us? And so that's kind of where in 2021 we just started identifying different markets that we wanted to go to. And those markets were pretty much reflecting where those players were coming from. We felt like if we go to them, then, we have a higher success rate. And so in 2021, we took a leap of faith and we stepped out and hosted 4 tournaments in 4 different markets: Charlotte, Georgia, we did Virginia, and then Tennessee. It just slowly from there, it was a gradual process in terms of just each year looking to scale up a little bit more. And
Yeah.
today, as we talk, we're at 9.
So the events themselves, they kind of tell you whether this thing is growing and can take on another one. That's basically the market plan, right? The business plan.
Yeah, that's correct. Obviously, when we're hosting here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we see 20 to 30% of the players coming from Georgia, or 40% coming from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, that's a really good indicator that there's a strong support system in those markets um, that we could see if we took our brand to those markets. And so, it's kind of, it's just kind of one of those things where um, you study where your audience is coming from, and then
Yep.
you look to host there.
All right. We're talking with Arion Herbert, and Arion runs the Turf War kickballs tournaments that are held across the country. The one that's
Mhm.
coming to Maryland again this year will take place at Troy Park in Elkridge, which is in Howard County, July 5th and 6th. Tell me a little bit about it sounds like, from what I hear, that this is a combination of what makes these successful is how many players and teams you get plus the crowd. Is the crowd important, or is it more important to just get more players and get deeper into the community that way? Or are they co-equal, Arian?
Well, I would put equal emphasis on both of them.
Yeah.
I think that, our primary goal is to build a community, and what that community looks like is a combination of both players and teams as well as spectators. We've done a really amazing job over the years and really kind of making that connection with both. We've expanded our reach to spectators and fans through our TV and media with ESPN, as well as creating these experiences that now funnel its way through the kickball community and has essentially attracted new teams and new players to come in. And so when you marry the both of those, you really create, the perfect recipe to see success on both sides.
Arian, tell me what are you shaped up for this year at Troy Park? How many teams do you have? How many players do you have?
That's a great question. So, the current count for
And is it
teams we're
is
approaching.
it too late as we're talking? Is it too late for teams to form or players to get involved for this year?
Yes, that's a really good question. So right now we're approaching close to 50 teams
Wow.
for this event, which is close to 800 adult athletes coming from all over the country. Is it too late for teams to sign up and register? Absolutely not. Registration is still open. It'll be open until Monday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if teams want to come in, try their luck. We have multiple divisions for multiple talent levels that we offer. So if you're, a highly competitive and advanced player, we have a space for you. And if you're a little laid back and less intense, we have a space for you in that space as well. So,
And is that
yes,
do people go to that website, https:// turfwarskickball.com?
yeah, you go to turfforcekickball.com. You just simply click on our events listing, and not only will it bring up the Maryland event, but it'll bring up all the other events to follow. So, if the Maryland event is, too close for your comfort,
Right.
then, we do have other events in other markets that we'll be hosting throughout the year.
Okay. Where are the other events this year? Do you know them offhand? I mean, I'm
Hmm.
imagining they're in there in your head somewhere, but you got
Yeah.
still in Georgia, still in Tennessee, still in
Hmm.
Virginia. Where else?
Yeah, so those other markets were some that we previously did. The next ones that are coming up, we have Orlando, Florida. That's going to be the first week of August, followed by Charlotte, North Carolina. That's going to be Labor Day weekend, the end of August. And then we have Richmond, Virginia. That's going to be in October, streaming live on ESPN3, just like this Maryland event will be in a few next week. And then we close out with our nationals in Austin, Texas, in the end of November, mid-November, November 15th. And so yeah, we have a pretty decent number of events left on the second half of our calendar.
So I understand this also. These teams are co-ed, or they're men's teams and ladies teams.
All three of them. The events, the way that we break them down, they happen over the course of 2 days. So our Saturday is dedicated to our co-ed competition where you'll see both men and women taking the field at the same time. And then on Sunday, we separate, right? And you have your women's only division, and they're competing on the field alongside the men's only division who are competing as well. And the men's division is powered by a sports organization called Legacy Sports.
All right. Well, I was going to ask you next about, and you jumped in and mentioned the ESPN3 thing. Will this
Mhm.
year's event, all 9 events, be on ESPN3 streaming?
N- not all nine, but we were able to, do four out of the nine events this year on ESPN. So one which has already taken place in Auburn, Alabama, which we just successfully completed Memorial Day weekend. This one that's taking place in Maryland next week is our second ESPN event of the year, and we'll have another one coming up in August, and then our last ESPN event of the year will be in Richmond,
Okay. Um,
Virginia.
how many people do you think you will get to attend this? Is it sort of 2, 3 thousand people over the course of the 2 days? Is that a high estimate, or is it less than that?
It's a wishful estimate. If I go historically, the numbers we've been able to produce, I think we've been able to attract, a little over 1,000
Okay.
attendees, both players and spectators. Obviously, with the support of Maryland Sports Commission, really doing an amazing job, not only as partners and supporting us in so many different spaces, also really helping us with our outreach and making that helping get that the communication out to the community to invite them and let them know what it's about. So we feel confident that we'll be able to really kind of reach those numbers, especially with it being a holiday weekend and local residents in the community wanting to just explore different things to do. And we really think this is going to be a great experience for you to bring your friends, your family, your kids out. And so, yeah, we think we'll certainly surpass 1,000
Gotta
attendees.
gotta ask. I'm assuming
Mhm,
this is something that would attract some families to come out. How do people
mhm,
get tickets? Is there a charge for the tickets? And are there
mhm.
concessions available at the tournament?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we have tickets for this event, which we have on our website. And it's an Eventbrite link, which we could also share when this is posted. We could put that link on this channel as well. The tickets are free, no charge. We do have concessions, vendors that will be on site, serving really good, really delicious food. We'll have different vendors there to create different experiences for the families that are out there to enjoy. So, it's certainly something that we try to create that's attractive to families. And then obviously, when it's at the end of the day, we also are featuring some of the most talented and best adult kickball players in the world, right? So you get an opportunity to kind of see it at its highest level.
Tell me, the games start at what time? Is it like 10 o'clock in the morning to 10
Mhm.
o'clock at night? What type of hours are these things if people are interested?
So we start at 8 a.m. Games start at 8 a.m. and the structure of what they will be seeing is at 8 a.m. till about 12 p.m. All teams will be competing in the preliminary rounds.
Okay.
Those preliminary rounds are where you're just kind of teams are fighting for the chance and competing for the chance to compete in the single elimination format, which takes place around 2 p.m., starting at 2 p.m. And so between that 8 to 12 time frame, that's where you're determining who your top teams are and which teams are going to essentially make it into the single elims. And so um, we will have that. And then, 2 p.m. will start. That's where ESPN will begin streaming. And then the teams, they'll battle it out from there to see, which one survives and takes home the cash.
That sounds good. So there is a cash component to this. Tell me about
There is a
that.
cash prize. Yeah, so we have multiple divisions and we have our co-ed intermediate division, which uh teams will be competing for championship rings and a t-shirt. But then we also have our co-ed advanced division where teams will be competing for championship rings, t-shirt, and cash prize.
All right.
The cash prize, we haven't announced it yet. But what I could say is typically it doesn't fall any lower than 2,500, depending on the number of teams that we have. And it's been as high as 5,000 in the past. So
Wow.
it could fall anywhere between that range with the teams that come out to compete for that.
So if I was a captain of the team, that check would be made out to, or the cash would be given to me, and I could choose to disperse it in any way I want, right?
Mm,
I'm
yeah, we'll
kidding.
hand it
I'm
to you.
kidding.
We'll
I'm
we'll we'll
kidding.
hand it to you. Yeah. So what's cool about it though,
I'm kidding.
Stan, what's so cool? No, but what the really cool thing about the experience is that um we pay the cash right there on the field,
Yep.
middle of the field, and um we had this thing that we do called a money count. right? So like after the team wins and they're in the middle of the field celebrating, the team huddles up and they want to see that cash and they want to see it counted out.
I'll
And
bet.
so we'll count it out and we'll have the $100 bills and they'll count out with us. So if it's 5,000, they're gonna sit there and count out all 50 with us. And they're one, two, three, and they go crazy. They love it. So I said that to say, I know that you're joking, but it'd be pretty hard for you to escape from your teammates after that
I
type of
understand.
celebration.
That is very cool. Very cool. Do the games go on into the evening? In other words, if the sun is a little hot for some elderly people, can some people come out in 7 o'clock in the evening and watch games?
Well, we usually wrap up before the lights are turned on.
Okay.
The last game will start around 5, 6 p.m.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Again, this year's event, and again, this is the Turf Wars Kickball Tournament. They're all across the country, 9 events this year, but the one in
Mhm.
Maryland this year will take place at Troy Park in Elkridge in Howard County, Maryland, July
Mhm.
5th and 6th. Have we hit on just about everything we wanted to, Arion?
I think so. I think the only thing that we haven't hit on is whether or not we're going to see you out there playing. I think that was the last thing, and we'll be good to go from there.
Well, I'm recovering from a pretty bad car accident in
Oh
Florida.
no, sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Sorry
yeah.
to hear
So I'm
that.
not I'm not going to be playing this year, but
Mm,
if there was cash involved next year, Griffin and
there we
I
go.
are going to come up with a team. Griffin
There we
Bass
go.
and I are going to come up with a
There
team.
we go. There we
Arion
go.
Herbert, really appreciate it. Again,
Thank you.
that website is turfwarskickball.com if you're interested in either playing or you're interested in somehow purchasing the free tickets through Eventbrite.
Hmm.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Arion.
Thank
Appreciate it
you.
very much.
Thank you. All right. You have a great day.
And that'll do it for this edition of Drawing a Crowd, the Business of Sports Tourism for Terry Hazeltine and our guest, Arion Herbert. I'm Stan the Fan Charles. Terry and I will be back next month in the month of July with another edition of Drawing a Crowd. Thank you for tuning in.